So the next segment, which I would like to do, I want to actually discuss what has happened to yoga in America in terms of going in all these different directions. And what do you think of it? What do you think of yoga being disconnected from the Indian roots? What is your view on it? Because there's a lot of people who want to despiritualize what's called the YMCA yoga, because some U.S. Courts and school systems said you cannot teach this because it's religious. So they said, okay, we can't do Om. Those kind of things, that controversies will happen. So I want to talk to you about that, because I'm concerned about the loss of authenticity when we try to make those compromises just to be politically correct or socially correct and so on. So that'll be our next segment. So what I'd like to discuss is, since you brought yoga to this country, a lot has happened to yoga that you can't control, no one person can control, because it takes a life of its own. You teach teachers, and then they do whatever they do. Other teachers come, many forces come, different ideologies come. So since the time you brought the real Indian yoga here, yoga has also transformed. So like I've noticed the studio in my house, near my house in Princeton, they stopped saying Om. They just don't want to, because some people think it's
religion,
some non-Hindu, non-Judeo-Christian, and they're bothered. Some places they have Christian yoga, they put some angels there, and so they're saying that we don't want these deities anymore. And so one yoga center, they removed all the deities and they put something else. So there's politics of yoga. And then there's also some people who complain that teaching yoga in the school system violates the separation of church and state, because you're sneaking in an Eastern religion behind the back door. You're quietly bringing this in. So some people got court orders. Even they got court orders against transcendental meditation, that this is not secular. It's a mantra, is a kind of a very weird thing that you guys are bringing. So I'll tell you the tension points, and then you tell me what you think of them. So Om and mantra is a tension point for some people. Deity is a tension point. Kundalini experience is a tension point, because such an experience is not available and not taught in the Abrahamic religions, and it would have an effect on the authority of the church institution, because they're saying that the only way to salvation is through us as an institution, and you are saying that you can do it yourself.
Right.
So it's like somebody saying you have to buy this product from this one centralized place, and we got many branch offices.
Right.
We got many retail outlets. You can go to our retail center and buy the hamburger from any McDonald's, but you have to buy it from McDonald's. One paradigm says that, and then you are saying that, look, every one of you is self-sufficient because you're originally divine. You're Satchitanand. So this idea that you can have a Kundalini experience and these sort of things is threatening to some people with big institutions.
Right.
So this has started some controversies.
Right.
So I wanted to discuss what your thoughts are. That what do you think of people who say, I don't want to chant mantra, or I don't like this deity, I don't want to, or I don't believe in, I can't accept Kundalini because having the divine with me is kind of like the devil talking. It's devil. It is evil talk. People say that.
Yeah.
People say that.
Right.
Okay. So you must have come across this kind of...
I have come across, when I came first in the early days, there were people who just could not understand, because for them everything was so unfamiliar. The mystical dimension of yoga and the supernatural dimension of psychic field, they were not aware of. So they thought this is devil, or something wrong is happening. So what I say is yoga actually from India, it comes from what is called Sanatan Dharma, eternal truth. So I have built these yoga teachings in such a way that each step is taken as a practice with the core principles and authentic teachings of yoga that reveals the God that is already within them. And so what is God? God and love are the experience of integration and oneness, that it leads to the oneness. So people go to that experience in my class, and then they say, and then they go to, that helps them to just get rid of their past conditioning, habit patterns that are so rigidly held, concepts about their relationship they had in the past, because they connect to God within them. So they don't have to believe in God to begin with, because they experience oneness that God is, oneness that yoga is, oneness that love is by practice itself. So they are given, so when I teach them how to access God within you and give them all the techniques. And directly they experience, oh my God, I feel like so much freedom from how I used to be. Worried, fearful, in conflict with love life, family life, work life, but that was not me. So they begin to see who they really are. So those teachings are teaching them that God is I am within you. Because in Christianity, even it is said, before the Abraham was, I am. And then Christ says, he didn't say I was. So I am teachings that Christ understood from traveling in the East. You know, many evidence say that he was in India and he learned yoga from the great yogis. And when he brought these teachings, he said in the different words, but people could not understand it. So, but when I had the experience of yoga and I read his teachings, I understand. But the people who practice Christianity, they do not know but the saints who practice real teachings, they could understand.
So the thing is that there's a difference between what Jesus may have experienced and the institutionalized body of doctrine called Christianity. Because the institutionalized body of doctrine called Christianity, written in the New Testament, taught in the church, has a very long lineage of, they have their own parampara and lineage of interpretation.
That is very well said. This is what they are missing, the authentic practitioner who can teach the real teachings of Christ.
Okay,
then, just a minute.
Yeah.
But then what they did is, there were some saints in their tradition also who knew the real teachings of Christ from the real practice of what Christ taught. But they didn't want to create controversy, or they didn't want to start their own path, so they decided to name them as saints after they were dead.
Yes.
So they do not create controversy.
Yes, this is one of the, if you remember, long back we had a discussion on the living masters versus the dead saints.
Dead saints, yes.
If you remember that.
Yes.
That the tradition of living enlightened masters defeats and undermines, it's like a poison pill for the tradition that says there is no such thing as Satchitanand, because if they were to acknowledge that there is such a condition as living enlightenment, a living enlightened master, then you do not need an institution like a church to give you the truth about some history, because rather than worrying about history, you can experience it right now for yourself.
So that is why yoga that I taught became very popular. And the yoga center that I started became the largest, with 350 full-time resident volunteer staff.
Okay, so now here's the thing.
Because they really saw the real meaning of that they could not find in the religion that they were.
So there's two things. One is a kind of an interpretation of Christ which is sort of Vedic oriented, Vedantic oriented, Sanatan Dharma interpretation of Christ is one idea. The other is the institution of church and formal Christianity, which because it's a very institutionalized religion. It is not a do-it-yourself that you do your own things. It's very much church-oriented, and church got a lot of power, a lot of property. They're the richest landowner in the world. They have more preachers than any sales force of a multinational. They have more trillions of dollars wealth than anyone. They have a bigger turnover. So it's the biggest multinational of the world.
Right.
It's the biggest multinational and the oldest.
Right.
It's been older than any of these multinationals.
But now, because the people do not get what they are trying to deliver, therefore, they're like a Kripalu Center that I bought was the Christian seminary for training the priests. But they don't, hardly anybody goes there
No, but
because
that-
they
yeah.
do not get the real teachings of Christ.
But then you look at the Christian right wing in this country. They're politically still very powerful. They might become the president. They might capture the White House. So they're not a trivial thing. We can't imagine that they're gone. I mean, you have examples where they're not doing well and examples where they're doing very well. And there's also a revival of that in Europe. The revival of the Christian fundamentalism is big in France, Germany, England, big. Some of it is a reaction to Islam, so they're coming back to fight the Islam. Some of it is just as a response to too much secularism and too much atheism coming back. So I don't think we can sort of, and besides, whatever may be happening in the Western countries, in India they're really evangelizing and converting poor people on a very big scale. I mean, they are just, it's like devastating in India. So in India, what they're doing is they're going and duping people by saying, you know, this Jesus is your own son of your soil. He was here only, he was yogi only, so you just adopt him. This is a way to dupe people into converting them. And once they are converted, then they are told to distance themselves and attack their Vedic heritage. So attacking one's own heritage is a very violent thing, especially when it's forced upon somebody out of poverty.
Right.
So this business of saying Jesus could also be reinterpreted and accommodated within Sanatana Dharma has this strategy that once we can convince enough Hindus to accept this, we will then go through in various ways to convert large numbers of people, which is what they're doing. So they have Mary wearing a sari, Jesus in a lotus position in the churches, and and you see they're saying this Jesus also Rishi, and so Bible is the fifth Veda. There is this, the Bible is the fifth Veda, and so now if you're studying Bible, don't worry, it's the fifth Veda only, and there's Jesus in a dhoti, so and the Bible is a yagna. So
they use the terminologies of them.
all this is a strategy called Enculturation, which is a very official strategy started by the church, to use this Hindu or this Indian, the Sanatana Dharma openness, what I call open architecture, openness, as a way to defeat it. So this openness that you're showing, which is part of the culture, to be very open and allow others, in fact, receive others with open arms, welcome them, they use it to kind of defeat.
Right.
So you see what happened is, when they were fighting the pagans in Europe, they did the same thing. When they were fighting the pagans in Africa and Latin America, they did the same thing. They would go to a village in Latin America and they would say, you're worshipping your ancestral deities. We have no problem. So you can keep worshipping those ancestral deities, and we are bringing you, food and help and all that, charity. And so let's just bring in Jesus as another deity to sit along with the other deities. And he's just part of the family. And these guys were gullible. They said, fine, why not? What's wrong? So they would bring in Jesus as another deity. Then they would raise the children of these people in their own Christian school, in the church school. And there they teach the children a little bit differently. What they teach the children is, that's for your parents. For the old generation in front of them, you can respect them. But you know what the real truth is, that those are false idols. They are false idols. So when these children grow up, and the parents are now very old, the children are running the show, the parents are old, they're told, just put up with it, but someday you just have to throw these idols away and demolish them and burn them and so on. So it's a 3-generational project to inculturate, get your foot in the door, look like you're a good guest, but then ultimately the guest job is to throw the host out. Throw the host out of his own.
Because they work with missionary approach to teaching.
It's a power. It's about power.
Right, and we don't do that.
We don't do that. So we don't even understand what their game is often what their game is. So you see, the thing is that we have one story, one narrative about how to reinterpret Jesus in a Sanatana Dharma way. Okay, that's fine. Then there is how the church has made a codified, very rigid doctrine of do's, don'ts. They have something called Nicene Creed, which is read out in the church all the time, which very clearly says that this is the only way. This is the only way you can reach salvation. All other ways are devil influencing and whatnot. Then you have to be against idolatry. You have to be against these mantras and against practices that are considered pagan. You see, so this business of we accommodate the pagan for a while because we need some good things from him. He's teaching us some great things, he's helping us. We'll put up with that. But someday, when we've digested all of his good knowledge into our own framework, we'll throw him out and we'll actually denounce him, hit him, accuse him, allege him, and really burn him. Because that business of burning and destroying idols in Europe was a very important practice of Christianity. So this business of destroying the pre-Christian faith rather than cohabiting, living in harmony, is part of the history. So
this is what happened to one of my friends.
Yes.
So Swami Brahmananda. He had a beautiful big ashram in Monroe, New York. And he had some disciple, woman disciple, her son. So I don't know what really happened, but her son died. So these people who were in the neighborhood who didn't want him to be there, they took the girl, say, you sue him for second-degree murder. That's what she did. And then he was in a real trouble because he never did that.
Right.
Neither did she do anything that way. But it could be construed like his advice did that. Her son died. So there are many situations that are being created against in many different ways.
So what they need to get out of the way, what the church needs to get for itself out of the Sanatana Dharma, and what it needs to reject is very clear to them. We should be very clear also. What they want is the pran therapy and pran healing. What they want is this non-dual consciousness idea. These are ideas very powerful for healing all kinds of problems. They want that. They want the asana, they want the yoga, they want the meditation. These are things they want. But notice, I didn't use deity in my list of things they want. Mantra is very dangerous, they say, because mantra brings in the vibration, which brings in the consciousness, links them back to Sanskrit and Vedas and all that, and that's dangerous. And they certainly don't want the living guru. The living guru, sir, is the biggest threat, because even if they burnt all the books and they got rid of all the deities and images, the point is the living guru will bring it back. This is why Sanatana Dharma never got destroyed, because Sanatana Dharma always produced every generation they produced one living guru after another. So even
That's a most important statement.
So the living guru is the text. This is an important thing. The text is not written down. Text is not something disembodied from you. So the deity is not disembodied from you. The living guru is the deity, the living guru is the text.
And that's precisely what happened to Bapuji.
Yeah.
There are many gurus that came to America and many gurus in India. They have practiced yoga, but Bapuji was one of the rare gurus who had Kundalini awakening, and his body gave birth to hundreds of postures that were never shown by other gurus who were not in the same tradition, like Swami Vivekananda or Paramahansa Yogananda. They were in different tradition. In India, all these traditions are valid.
Yes.
But he was the first guru whose body revealed hundreds of yoga postures.
And he did not read it from a book.
Never came from the book.
So the text,
And
the ultimate truth is encoded in every person.
And that is what happened to me in
Yes.
1970
Yes.
when I had an awakening experience.
Yes.
The yoga postures just were born from direct meditation rather than me having learned. So some of the postures were from my learning. They looked like similar to what I had learned. Some were so completely new. But they were all amazingly miraculous because they were going to the direct target where the energy block was. And the Shakti was designing the particular posture and breathing technique to hit that particular area to dismantle that block. So progressively, I was going deeper and deeper in meditation with each movement and getting more relaxed and more integrated and deeper in oneness.
And this is so ultimately our tradition is empirical, it's experiential. It's not that there's a truth in a text we have to believe. It's like some doctrine that it's not doctrine, it's experiential.
Right.
So this idea of what you experience as truth and what you teach as truth, if it is not acceptable to somebody with a closed mind and a doctrine, rather than us compromising the truth, we have to say this is the truth we have actually experienced, and we can teach you to experience the same.
Right.
And then how you reconcile with your own tradition is up to you.
So that is why, even though I did not bring any religious background or a religious master, like when Swami Vivekananda came, he had a guru who was very famous. Yogananda had a guru. I had a guru, but he wasn't that famous at that time. So all the people, they were many Christians and Jews who followed me and wanted to live their life so completely and be resident volunteer staff, 350. That shows that our Sanatana Dharma has such a powerful direct experience of the divine within, and therefore that is the kind of success I have had.
So it is, I would say it is a tension, you think of it as a tension, it is a tension between the experiential truth, which is self-realized, versus mental story, narrative of a historical event that you have to believe.
Right.
And you have to believe it on face value, and you have to believe it because of the fear. If you don't believe, you're going to go to hell, and there's only one life, and there's no reincarnation, this is your only chance. You better get it right first time, otherwise you've had it. So there's a huge downside if you don't believe, and a huge reward of heaven if you do believe. And you don't have to practice yoga or anything, you just believe in it. And if you believe in it, you're going to be saved, and you stamp your passport ticket, you're out there.
So that is the uniqueness about yoga.
This is the thing. This is the uniqueness.
Right, because you don't have to believe in anything.
Yes.
Because everything is revealed experientially.
But you have to follow a process.
Right.
You have to follow a process, and then it will just come to you, and you then start accepting your own experiences as your truth.
And you let go of self-concepts, fears, and attachments. And as you come in touch with who you really are, that is yoga in connecting back to the soul that I am.
So one other thing in this regard I want to say is, a large part of the success of Sanatana Dharma is the lineage system, the paramparas.
Right.
You are so respectful of your guru and of his guru and so on. So what do you think is going to happen after you in that regard? Because I will tell you this, J. Krishnamurti, after he's gone, it's vanished. Prabhupada, it's broken into many ISKCONs, some of them fighting. Such a great guru. Maharishi, his own people in Iowa, I visited, they are the elders who were actually initiated by Maharishi, Mahesh Yogi, are very loyal to him. Till now, they're all loyal, absolutely loyal to him. They're very genuine, very authentic Westerners. They're all very loyal because they have had the experience with him. But they tell me they're not too sure of whether it will be continued beyond them into the next generation, where they never met Maharishi personally. So those who never met Maharishi, didn't get the experience of him, for them it's just a book, and there's a lot of this manipulation that you can put it into Christian-centering prayer, there are all these kind of movements. So they themselves are worried that this may get scattered, dismantled, dissolved and digested into this and that hanky-panky ideologies. So then you look at Swami Satchidanand, no lineage left. You look at Osho, no much left. You look at Paramahansa Yoganand, basically self-realization fellowship teaching certain things, but they have not been able to create a great guru. They're not been able to create another Paramahansa.
Right.
So that's the thing, because the true lineage is through the Shaktipat, the master creates another one.
Right.
Then he carries it on. But all the examples I gave, there is no successor of that kind.
Right.
They just have a book and they can teach and they can play his videos and that sort of thing, but they are not created anybody like that.
That's such an important concept
yes,
you're talking about.
Yes.
And that is my intention. And that's why I have started a Acharya level training program.
Okay.
So that people who have Kundalini awakening experience, and we have several people who have the same experience that awakened me. That is what Bapuji took Bapuji to all the level of the Nirvikalpa Samadhi, and that is what is being trained. The people are trained, and it is in the process.
So the thing is that it's a very important thing that you're doing, which is to take people who through your Shakti path have had the same Kundalini experience, but then they also need to know the traditional texts and the philosophies and the way that the tradition has interpreted them, so they don't take this experience running here and there looking for some alternative interpretation,
What a beautiful-
shopping around for like a flea market. What has happened is Vedic culture, Sanatana Dharma, yoga is often has turned into what I would characterize as a flea market.
Wow.
Everybody is sitting there selling whatever he can sell, and if it doesn't sell, next day he'll come back and put something else on the market. And this is not lineage, sir. This is not parampara system. This is not how we survive for thousands of years.
Right.
So we cannot survive with people saying, okay, after me, you guys turn it into a flea market. So it's a very difficult job.
Very difficult.
This is a very, very difficult job
Right.
to leave a parampara behind.
Right.
And that's where I would love to do anything for any guru, any good guru, to help them achieve that. Because I respect our gurus as the highest value we have.
So that is why, all my training is, I tell yoga teachers, I said, this is the program for complete transformation, enlightenment program. But I called it yoga teacher training because I know you will not come for enlightenment program, but yoga teacher training, you will come, and then you will find out what you were really looking for is in this program. So I call it energetic transmission. So energetic transmission is so different than verbal or intellectual
Yes.
or conceptual
That is
communication.
Shaktipat. That is Shaktipat.
Right, Shaktipat.
Yes.
So many people have gone through such amazing, powerful experiences that you just read in the book. So that, and then these people, and now I'm training in the people in residence to enter into that training program, so their life will be transformed so completely, so they will be in touch with the inner God, inner Guru directly, and without believing in God or Guru or religion, anything, they will know experientially that they have realized everything that religions are talking about, but then they will know what they don't know. They will know that what they are talking about, they don't know what they are talking about.
So you see,
And that's what happened to me. When I was awakened, I could see everything, the phoniness of the teachings that go on in the form of belief system
Right.
rather than experiential
Right.
approach.
So you see, the thing is that the most important thing you're saying is it's very precious that we should start with the experience, with the higher level of experience, awakening, the Kundalini, various kinds of awakening. But then I would say we need to anchor the person in Shastra, whether it's Bhagavad Gita.
That is what I have. We are starting training in the scriptures.
Right.
Bhagavad Gita,
Yes.
Patanjali Yoga Sutra,
Yes.
Shiva Sutras,
Very
and all
important.
that. Yes.
So important that you see, because I know people who have experience, but they don't know how to interpret it in the context of Shastra, and they go here and there. They get into, they think it's some hallucinogenic experience. People have weird ways of interpreting, and they even bounce around politically based on what will work socially, politically, economically, what might make them more money. Some people are in the market taking this experience for sale. So, okay, so I can sell more books and more videos if I don't have this baggage with Sanatana Dharma, if I say that this came out of, something else. The Gospel of Tom told me this. So if I make up a story, then I have more clients because
Right.
that's what they want to believe. So I'm actually keeping them within their belief system. It's like an addiction. I'm feeding them, a dosage of this drug because they're intoxicated by their belief system. They're a prisoner of their belief system. Rather than helping them dismantle that belief system, I'm feeding them with another very high potency idea, and that keeps their belief system alive. So actually we're doing a disservice to people of certain organized religions by buttressing and reinforcing and fortressing their belief system by giving them these ideas. We have to actually help them dismantle that
Right.
these belief systems are like Naam Roop. You have to get out of Naam Roop.
Right,
all
right.
these mental structures.
Right. That's beautifully said.
These are book-based, wholly book-based. One book which happened to somebody long ago, I should be thinking about what's happening to me now.
Right.
The starting point should not be what happened to somebody long ago. It happened to him, great. It happened, fine. He was a great man. But I have to figure out who am I right now, here and now.
That's
And
what I teach.
that's what you teach, and I have to work on that, and I have to write then one day I'll be able to write my own experiences like that guy wrote his experiences.
Right.
So if I am as much Satchitananda as Jesus Christ was, or anybody else, or whoever, Krishna, anyone, then what's important to me is not the history of that guy's experience. What's important to me is the process to have my own.
That is so beautifully said, and that's my focus.
Good.
That's why I have so much following in the West.
And I'm so happy.
Right.
And you're very authentic, and I just want to make sure that it stays that way. We are very honored that we have somebody like you. We want to make sure that it gets transmitted, passed on to the next generation of followers, and they have the same respect and honor for the tradition.
That's
That
beautiful.
you're one of the first to bring it here, and you've kept the authenticity. You have the deities here. You have Ganesh. You have Shiva. You have goddess. You have all of those, and you do the bhajan. I've heard you with great love and passion, and you teach very authentically. And I just want to make sure that that people understand that this is not just some kind of a culture X versus Y and their own identity at stake. It's not that. There's a certain truth in this. There's a certain experiential truth that can be experienced only if you dismantle the clutches and the fortresses of the scaffolding, you might say, of these old belief systems.
The beautiful word, scaffolding.
Scaffolding. So it is actually yoga versus history obsession. Because an obsession with some history is going to block the yoga.
Right.
As long as I'm sitting
And I teach the same thing because each person is also identifying with his own past history.
Yes, so you
And
see, just
that-
like you want the individual narrative ego to be deconstructed and dismantled,
Exactly. See, you understand.
similarly, there's a very powerful collective narrative in certain cultures that they have.
Exactly. That's
They have put it with fear that you just cannot get out of this, and you go to hell if you don't believe in it, and you go and give us 10% of your wages, and they really put it into fear and got a huge military-like organization, and that is a collective ego. So it is, while our teachers are very good in teaching the dissolution of the individual ego,
mind.
our teachers must learn that the Western student who comes has two levels of ego. They also have a very powerful collective ego, which we don't have. Because we're not taught that huge idea of, salvation based on this particular method and bowing to this institution of church. We have a decentralized system in India. You go to the local thing and you don't know about where else anybody believes what they believe doesn't matter to you. And it is not your job to go convert the next fellow. You have to work on yourself.
That's beautiful.
Right. So since we are not into power expansion, this is not a religion of power expansion and
Or
world,
politics.
or politics or world conquest, and we have to take over the whole world and not Muslim versus Christian fight on who takes over the world. We're not into that. We've never had a history of doing that. So what we are teaching is actually very powerful for anybody to learn. A Christian or a Jew could benefit a lot by learning this. And as a result, giving up the individual ego and the collective ego.
That's beautiful. And that's I have woven into the practice of yoga
Yes.
and lifestyle, both.
Yes.
And that's why I teach Yoga Nidra, but I have given a lot of details about what are the principles of Yoga Nidra that takes you directly into the oneness that God is within you.
Yes.
But when you wake up, how to live those principles in awakening. That's why I've written the whole book on Yoga Nidra. Otherwise, you can have a CD and that's enough.
And I practice your Yoga Nidra quite regularly. And I want to say that I'm very grateful to that. So we conclude this segment, which is, I think, very interesting.